Millions of tons of green waste quietly pile up. Grass clippings from suburban lawns, fallen leaves from city streets, tree branches from storm cleanups, and vegetation cleared from highways and parks. To most people, it looks like nothing more than yard debris, something to be hauled away and forgotten. But in America, this organic waste is not the end of a story. It is the beginning of one of the largest and fastest-growing recycling industries in the country. Today, we're taking you inside a supergiant green waste recycling plant, where mountains of organic waste are transformed into fertile soil, renewable fuel, and clean energy that power farms, cities, and industries across the nation. The idea of recycling organic waste is not new. For thousands of years, farmers returned plant matter back to the soil to restore fertility. Indigenous cultures understood that leaves, wood, and plant waste were not garbage, but nutrients waiting to be reused. As America industrialized, however, organic waste began to disappear into landfills. By the mid-20th century, cities were burying millions of tons of green waste each year. Over time, scientists discovered that when organic material decomposes underground without oxygen, it releases methane, a greenhouse gas far more powerful than carbon dioxide. That realization changed everything. By the late 20th century, states like California began banning green waste from landfills, sparking a revolution in large-scale composting and biomass recycling. Today, the United States generates more than 35 million tons of green waste every year, and much of it flows into massive recycling facilities, like the one we're exploring now. From the outside, these plants resemble industrial yards rather than traditional recycling centers. Huge open areas stretch for acres, stacked with towering piles of wood, leaves, soil, and vegetation. The air smells earthy, not rotten, a sign that decomposition is being carefully controlled. Trucks arrive continuously, dumping loads collected from cities, construction sites, landscaping companies, and storm cleanup operations. Every load is inspected to ensure contaminants like plastic, metal, or treated wood don't enter the system. Once accepted, the green waste begins its transformation. Excavators and loaders feed massive industrial grinders, machines powerful enough to chew through tree trunks and root balls. Inside these grinders, spinning teeth shred branches, leaves, and wood into smaller, uniform pieces. This step is critical. By increasing surface area, the material can decompose faster and more evenly. What once looked like chaotic piles of debris now becomes a consistent organic feedstock, ready for processing. From here, the material is sorted and directed toward different pathways, depending on its composition and final use. Some of it moves toward composting, where biology takes over. Long rows of shredded green waste, known as windrows, stretch across the facility. These rows can be hundreds of feet long and several feet high. Specialized machines turn the piles regularly, introducing oxygen and maintaining the ideal temperature for microbial activity. Inside these piles, temperatures can rise above 150 degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to kill weed seeds and pathogens. Over weeks and months, microorganisms break down the material into rich, dark compost, a living soil amendment packed with nutrients. This compost doesn't just stay at the plant. It's shipped to farms to improve crop yields, spread across vineyards and orchards, used in landscaping, and even applied to wildfire-damaged land to restore soil health. In drought-prone regions, compost helps soil retain moisture, reducing water use and improving resilience. What began as discarded yard waste becomes the foundation for new life. Another stream of green waste takes a different route. Woodier material is processed into biomass fuel. After additional drying and sizing, it's converted into chips or pellets and transported to biomass power plants. There, it's burned under controlled conditions to produce electricity and heat. Unlike fossil fuels, biomass is considered renewable because the carbon released during combustion was recently absorbed from the atmosphere by growing plants. In many rural areas, biomass plants provide stable renewable power while creating local jobs and reducing wildfire fuel loads by removing excess vegetation. Some facilities go even further by using anaerobic digestion. In this process, green waste is broken down by bacteria in sealed tanks without oxygen. As the material decomposes, it produces biogas, a mixture rich in methane. This biogas is captured and used to generate electricity, heat, or upgraded into renewable natural gas that can be injected into pipelines or used as vehicle fuel. The remaining digestate becomes another valuable soil product. This closed-loop system turns waste into energy with remarkable efficiency. What makes these supergiant green waste recycling plants so impressive is their scale and precision. Sensors monitor temperature, moisture, and oxygen levels. Operators adjust turning schedules and airflow to optimize decomposition. Environmental controls manage runoff and prevent odors. Everything is engineered to keep the process clean, efficient, and safe for nearby communities. What once was considered messy yard waste is now managed with the same seriousness as any major industrial operation. Behind the machines and systems are people who understand both nature and technology. Equipment operators, environmental scientists, plant managers, and maintenance crews work together to keep the process flowing. Many of these facilities operate year-round, handling seasonal surges in autumn leaves, spring landscaping waste, and storm debris. After hurricanes or wildfires, green waste plants become critical infrastructure, processing millions of tons of fallen trees and vegetation that would otherwise overwhelm landfills. The environmental impact of this industry is profound. Recycling green waste reduces landfill use, cuts methane emissions, produces renewable energy, and returns nutrients to depleted soils. It closes the loop between cities and nature, turning consumption into regeneration. In a world facing climate change and resource scarcity, green waste recycling offers a powerful example of circular economy in action. Perhaps the most remarkable thing is how invisible this system is to everyday life. When homeowners rake leaves or trim trees, they rarely think about where that waste goes. But behind the scenes, an entire industrial ecosystem is at work, transforming yesterday's yard debris into tomorrow's farmland, fuel, and power. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of America's most important and overlooked recycling industries, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. We'll continue exploring the massive systems that turn waste into value and keep the modern world moving. Thanks for watching, and as always, stay curious. Sand is the single most consumed natural resource on Earth after water. Every year, humanity uses over 50 billion tons of sand, enough to build a wall 27 meters high and 27 meters wide all the way around the planet. Sand. At first glance, it seems so ordinary, so plentiful, so insignificant. After all, it's just tiny grains of rock scattered across beaches, deserts, and riverbeds. But how do we actually harvest this vast quantity of sand? What does supergiant sand mining look like, and what secrets does it hold? In this video, we'll take you inside the billion-dollar industry that extracts, processes, and transports unimaginable amounts of sand every year. You'll discover how sand is mined from rivers, quarries, and seabeds, how it's sorted, washed, and transformed into essential building blocks of our lives, and why this seemingly abundant resource is becoming one of the most contested commodities in the world. Before we dive in, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss our behind-the-scenes deep dives into the industries that shape our world. Now, let's uncover the billion-dollar secret of sand. Not all sand is usable. Desert sand, for example, is too smooth and rounded from wind erosion. Construction requires angular sand grains that lock together like puzzle pieces. That's why most of the sand we use comes from rivers, lakes, and coastal deposits, where water action creates sharp, durable grains. As demand skyrockets, sand has become a multi-billion-dollar global commodity. Some analysts even call it the new oil. And like oil, its extraction is reshaping landscapes, economies, and even geopolitics. This is where the action begins. Dredging. Imagine a vacuum cleaner the size of a small ship. Suction dredges pump up sand mixed with water from the riverbed, sending it through pipelines that can stretch for miles. Some dredgers pull in over 10,000 cubic meters of material per day. Excavation. In open-pit mines, colossal excavators scoop tons of sand into dump trucks or conveyor belts with each movement. A single truck can haul up to 40 tons per trip. Frac sand mining. In states like Wisconsin, sandstone layers are blasted apart. The rock is then crushed to release the high-purity silica grains used in hydraulic fracturing for oil and gas. In total, the United States alone produces over 110 million tons of industrial sand and gravel every year. Raw sand is a dirty business. It's mixed with clay, silt, and organic matter. That's why the next step is cleaning. At giant processing plants, vibrating screens shake the material, sorting grains by size. Then, powerful jets of water wash away mud and impurities. For specialized silica, advanced processes like flotation and magnetic separation remove unwanted minerals such as iron or feldspar. This ensures the sand can meet strict industry standards, whether for strong concrete, crystal-clear glass, or delicate electronics. Once clean, the sand either goes straight to construction or enters another phase of refinement. Rotary kilns dry the material at scorching temperatures, sometimes exceeding 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit, 538 degrees Celsius. Frac sand is graded into exact grain sizes, each engineered to survive the extreme pressures deep underground in oil and gas wells. Meanwhile, silica sand destined for solar panels and microchips is purified until it reaches an astonishing 99.9% silica purity. This is the hidden backbone of high-tech America. Here's where scale becomes mind-blowing. Sand is heavy. Just 1 cubic yard can weigh about 1.3 tons. Moving millions of tons requires some of the biggest logistics systems in the world. Midwest, unit trains, stretching nearly 2 kilometers long, transport frac sand, with each train carrying more than 10,000 tons. On the Mississippi River, barges haul sand downstream, sometimes with 70 barges linked together, moving enough material to fill a football stadium. And internationally, cargo ships transport silica sand to glass factories and chip makers across the globe. Mining always leaves a mark on the land, but in the US, companies are required to restore the environment. Once sand is exhausted, pits are filled with water to create lakes, wetlands, or reservoirs. Others are converted back into farmland or even parks. What once looked like a scar on the earth can eventually become a haven for wildlife and communities. On the surface, sand seems infinite, but giant mining operations are exposing a troubling reality. Sand is a finite resource. In some regions, over-extraction has caused rivers to shrink, groundwater to vanish, and coastlines to erode. Fish populations collapse when their spawning grounds are disturbed, and communities lose farmland as riverbanks cave in. The rising demand has even fueled a black market for sand. In countries like India, sand mafias illegally mine riverbeds at night, clashing with locals and authorities. Environmentalists warn that unregulated mining could create shortages within decades. The irony is clear. While deserts hold endless sand, most of it is unusable for construction, making sharp river sand more precious than gold. At the same time, recycling efforts are growing. Crushed concrete, glass, and even manufactured sand from crushed rocks are being explored as alternatives. But for now, natural sand remains king. The future of sand mining depends on balancing demand with sustainability. Some countries are introducing strict regulations, requiring miners to restore landscapes after extraction or banning river mining altogether. Technological innovations, like producing artificial sand from basalt or granite, offer hope for reducing pressure on natural sources. Meanwhile, researchers are developing new building materials that require less sand or none at all. For example, green concrete mixes industrial byproducts like fly ash with reduced amounts of sand. But one fact remains: as urban populations grow and megacities expand, the demand for sand will only rise. By 2050, the world's urban population will increase by 2.5 billion people. That means more houses, more roads, more glass, and much more sand. Sand, the most ordinary material beneath our feet, is in fact the invisible foundation of our world. Every skyscraper, every highway, every smartphone screen owes its existence to billions of tiny grains mined from rivers, lakes, and seas. Supergiant sand mining is a billion-dollar industry, moving mountains of material each year to feed our insatiable appetite for growth and technology. But it also comes with costs: eroded landscapes, threatened ecosystems, and rising conflicts over who controls this vital resource. As we look to the future, the story of sand is really the story of humanity itself, a story of innovation, consumption, and the urgent need to build sustainably. If you found this journey into the supergiant world of sand mining fascinating, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. That way, you'll never miss our next deep dive into the industries that shape our lives. Thanks for watching, and remember, sometimes the smallest things make the biggest difference.